All right, welcome to episode number one here. When referring to the team by team recap for 2025, I hope everybody has enjoyed their off season as we continue to progress through this UFL off season. Last time we spoke, I was recapping the UFL Cup where David Katzenmeyer defeated Trent Slater. So taking some time to kind of regroup here, let everything die down, and now what I want to do is kind of go back and look through each team's season and see what went right and what went wrong and how we've gotten to this point, and who better to start off than David Katzenmeyer at number one, finishing number one for the first time in his career. He went 10-4. He led the league by a considerable margin in terms of point differential. This was one of his best seasons of all. I mean, it turned out to be his best season of all time. And I want to look at kind of how he got there, even looking at maybe possibly going into next season, but that'll probably be a different episode. But yeah, he did it. He did it. So David Katz, just kind of looking back at everything, he had just a really dominant season. And what's crazy is it was a dominant season in 2024 as well. And he managed to pull it off again. He was first in power score. He led every metric in terms of league win percentage. No considerable luck went his way. Points per game was spectacular. And now looking at him as a whole, he's now had back-to-back really dominant seasons. And this is a very, if he puts together another dominant season this year, we are witnessing something different and we're witnessing something special in terms of the 16 team modern era. So, especially in a salary cap league. So almost identical seasons in terms of 2024 to 2025. He just capitalized in the big game, and we'll get to that as well. But when looking at the start of his season, it was a lot of Lamar Jackson. That is who got a majority of his starts. You know, looking at quarterback, Lamar finished QB 22. It was actually a down season for Lamar. And that's what's so interesting. He couldn't win the big game when Lamar had an MVP season in 2024, and then he gets it done when Lamar is average at best in 2025. Missed weeks 5 through 8. Had a decent season, but really some rough stretches, week 11 through 13. Just a really tough season for Lamar. And now we get the coaching change with Jesse Minter taking over. He's going to bring his offensive coordinator of choice. I believe that's Declan Doyle, who is a very young offensive mind. So how will this change Lamar in terms of efficiency, etc.? And it really just comes down to health. And when I think about Lamar, he's unbelievable when he's on the field. And then I also want to kind of monitor how much he is running the football as he is getting older. Is he going to start running the ball less? And is he still going to be efficient from the pocket, which he has grown drastically over the last 2 or 3 seasons in terms of accuracy, anticipation, etc. in the pocket? And is Baltimore going to give him weapons on the outside to succeed and then help David progress here? Because now David is put into a position where he really, once again, has to consider, will he run back Lamar and Baker Mayfield? This is something that has been on his mind. It's been a topic surrounding David's team for the last 750 days. Is he going to get rid of Baker Mayfield? He did not last year, and it paid huge dividends. So, looking at Baker Mayfield, he started to take over for David towards the second half of last year, and he had a really good season. He finishes QB 12. That's solid. 18 and a half points per game. He finished with 17 in the championship game, which is really all that matters. Looking at his season, he only had 3 games of single digit points, which is excellent work from Baker. Now he loses his top target with Mike Evans going to the 49ers, but just looking at his season, really good start from Baker, and then he just played average football down the stretch for David in the playoffs, and that's kind of all that matters. Now, David did start Lamar, I believe, let's see, one of his games. 15, 16, 17. So he did Baker. Yeah, he did Lamar in the semifinals against Mason. And he did, well, Lamar, he had a first round bye. So he only started Baker in one playoff game. And it just turned out to be the right call. So QB was actually not a strong suit for David last year. It was not something that put him over the top. What put David over the top was finishing top 10, having players finish top 10, some of them top 5 at their positions from the rest of the board. So Jahmyr Gibbs put together another excellent, excellent season. Finishes running back 4, 27 points per game. And once again, Jahmyr has shown an ability to just absolutely take over games. And he did have a little bit more of when the games were bad, they were bad. He did have 5 single-digit games, which is very interesting compared to his 2024. But he's just so electrifying. 20 plus points weeks 2 through 5, 59, 250 point games, 178 point game, 140. Like, that's insane. And those kinds of games will win you weeks. So Jahmyr Gibbs is just a superstar at all levels. David drafted him back in 2023, I believe, at pick 9, or something around that area, and it's just paid huge, huge dividends. And Gibbs is now the star of the show. David Montgomery moves on to Houston. Pacheco will be his backup, but I expect Jahmyr to just be a superstar from here on out, and he was throughout that entire season for David. He did have a rough championship game with 4 points, but it didn't matter because Derrick Henry put together the greatest UFL Cup game we'll ever see, most likely. I'm not even going to touch on Derrick Henry for the rest of it throughout the entire season, which by the way was uber consistent, uber consistent. Just another really good season. Running back 7, 23 points per game, and he put up 71 points in the most important game of David's life. That's really all that matters. That game will go down as the most one side. There was one player that just took over. He carried David to a UFL Cup. 36 carries, 216 rushing yards, and 4 touchdowns. We'll probably never see anything like it. It was the most clutch performance of all time. And it's just crazy to think about. There were times, even going into last season's draft, where David contemplated trading Derrick Henry. Does he go and trade him to Cole Pletcher for I think it was the 6th overall pick, which Cole used on Travis Hunter? That would have been a huge difference maker in terms of, the outcome of this season. But he decided to keep Derrick, and it just paid off in a massive way. And that running back duo, once again, brought David so many wins. And Derek had a great season the year prior, and he has another unbelievable season, and he got it done for him. Jackson Smith and Jigba, arguably the best wide receiver in football last year. David was very patient with JSN. He took him at pick, I believe, 63, 69, something like that back in 2023, and he just held on to him since then. And he's continued to believe in the progress of Jackson Smith and Jigba. And last season it brought him a UFL Cup. And I know, yeah, 17 points in the UFL Cup game, which by the way was more than DJ Moore or himself put up back in the 2024 UFL Cup championship game against myself. Neither one put up, I think, more than 14 points. So that's already better than the year prior. But just going back and looking at that entire season, it was 20 plus points every single week. He did not have a game under 20 plus points until week 13. One game left, or 2 games left in the entire UFL regular season. So throughout the entire UFL regular season, he only put up one game that was less than 20 points. And honestly, in the entire season itself, he only put up 2. And one of them was in the UFL Cup championship game, and it just didn't matter anyways. It is such a good season from Njigba. He now has shown he can win inside in the slot. You can put him outside. He's a deep vertical threat. He played in every single game, so he now has no concern about injuries. Great hands, great after the catch, really, really good route runner. This is the elite wide receiver that David had always trusted in, and he brought him a UFL Cup. So it's a fantastic season. He lost by 1 point to Puka Nacua for most points by a wide receiver. Puka had 516 and Jigba had 515. It was an unbelievable season. Now, and Jigba will most likely get paid this offseason. I would be surprised. Can David possibly wait until after that June 1st deadline for all salary cap numbers? If Njigba gets extended past June 1st, David Katz would be able to roll out a $3 million Njigba for another season. That is a huge game changer. I believe he's $3 million. Let me check. He is. That is massive. So can Seattle wait to give him that extension past June 1st? That's when all salary cap numbers are locked for this season. Nico Collins. Now, arguably, this was the trade that changed everything. Looking at the actual UFL Cup, yes, Nico only put up 14 points, whatever. He made the trade, I believe it was after week 9, I believe, maybe week 10, and it was 30 point games, one, two, three, four, five out of his next 6 games, 14 to end the stretch. It was exceptional. He saw a declining DJ Moore. And I think the difference with this David Katz is he knew it was now or never. And he got on the phone with Evan Antonucci towards the deadline. And, I remember that night he was talking to me, and it was not something that he was adamant about getting done. David just wanted to know what was out there. Is there any possibility I can make my team better? And he wasn't going into this like I want Nico. He kind of just was asking around the league. And what I heard is that it was immediate interest from Evan to move on from Nico Collins. Therefore, David jumped on the opportunity as quickly as possible, and he traded DJ Moore and a 2026 first, which is now pick 16 in the draft, the last possible first round pick for Nico Collins. It was so close to becoming trade of the year. The only reason it didn't is because of Chase Brown's performance for Trent and that amazing trade that he made and Chase Brown's clutchness in the playoffs for Trent. But other than that, this would have been trade of the year. It was exceptional. Nico Collins for 24 million a year is such a bargain. He's a top 5, top 10 wide receiver in this league. And it was another elite season with a subpar CJ Stroud. How good can Nico Collins be when this offense is actually clicking? I don't know, and I'm scared to know. But I know Nico is locked in for next year with David. This was a really good trade. And what killed David in the 2024 UFL Cup was his wide receiver play from JSN and DJ Moore. Well, JSN had a tremendous season, and he moved on from DJ Moore, and he got a superstar wide receiver in Nico Collins to create a deathly lineup. Dallas Goedert. Now, could this have been Goddard's last season with David? It's trending towards likely. He did get a $7 million contract with the Eagles, so his cap number once again drops to 7 million. It went from 14 and 23 or 20 for 24 to 10 million last year. It'll drop again to 7 million, so it's slowly dropping, which is good for David, but I just don't know if he's going to be able to make it work. However, Goddard was really clutch for David in certain situations. He finishes as tight end 8, and I thought he had a really good season in terms of touchdown production for David. For some reason, I cannot click on his actual game log. But yeah, I thought, let's see. Yeah, there was a stretch where he put up a touchdown in what, 6 of his next 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his 6 games at one point. And then in the playoffs, those touchdowns were huge for David in week 15, 16, 17. Granted, he had a bye week in 15, but yeah, Goddard was really good in certain situations, and it felt like David was always starting the right guys at the right time. And he would take Goddard out when he felt like Goddard was going to regress, and he'd put him back in when he needed him. It was a good season from Goddard. Charbonnet, now this is somebody that David's always believed in as a running back. He did get hurt towards the end, but there was a stretch where Charbonnet was really good. And luckily, David, I will say this, is he did get very, very lucky. Not in terms of like, oh, no, he deserved the UFL Cup in terms of injury and health this year. None of his running backs went down until the end of the year. That's rare. especially for that position. So he never actually had to play Charbonnet really, which is a luxury in itself. So that's good. But Yoshi Voss never played for David. Jordan Addison. Now this was somebody who was suspended the first three games. Looked really good when he came back, and then he kind of tailed off down the stretch. So I do believe this will be the end of the run for Jordan Addison, or as David likes to call him, Jaddison, and the Cats in my organization. But Addison produced a healthy amount. He's a good wide receiver three in fantasy, I believe. It's just looking like it's the end of the road. I don't believe David started him in the UFL Cup. No, he did not. Now Addison ended up putting up more than Goddard, so that would have been interesting. But um, but yeah, Addison put up another decent season. How he does now with Kyler Murray or JJ McCarthy will be interesting to see how that, progresses things. Does he get extended now? Now, David will absolutely bring back Addison if he is not extended past June 1st. If he is $3 million next year, David will 100% bring him back, no question. So again, it's just going to come down to will he be extended? How much will it be? If he does get extended, no shot. David is able to keep him if it's before June 1st. But yeah, we'll monitor that as that goes. Chiga Conquo, who David took with the last pick of the draft, his draft, I believe, had a solid season. I mean, granted, he only played once or twice for David, but he showed promise in certain situations. It's not something that David ever had to rely on, but the end of the road probably has come for him and the Cats in my organization, and then Jalen Noel. Just looking at the schedule as a whole, I thought there was just very little weak spots. Now, in the losses that he did have, they were rough. Weeks 4 and 8 were below 90 points. Week four was brutal and a loss to DJ. But other than that, it was dominance. It was the first time anybody has put up four straight 130 plus point games, I believe, weeks 9 through 12, and one of them was a loss. So it was pure dominance at one point. It wasn't just 100 plus point games. I mean, just looking at how many 130 plus point games he had, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, including the UFL Cup championship. 10 out of 16 games that David played were 130 plus points. That's tough to beat. When he was on, he was on. And it's just really good football. He started to gain momentum, winning three of his last four to end the season. Really close game to Mason in the semifinal matchup. It's always interesting to think about, the what ifs. And he put up 118, just enough what he needed. Luckily, there wasn't any dominant performance from Michael Pittman in this game. Again, it was an average performance, actually below average, by Lamar Jackson. JSN, 30 points. Gibbs, 23. Derrick Henry. I mean, the clutchness of Derrick Henry really just summed up the season for David. I mean, I didn't even know that he was that good in week 16. Like that stretch right there and that playoff performance, 71 plus 20, that's 100 points in the playoffs, and David played two games. So Derrick Henry averaged 50 points for David in this year's playoffs. That is incredible. And there's really no other analysis to put to that. That's just Derrick Henry putting David's team on his back. And now it's gotten to the point where David has to bring him back because why would you not? He won you a cup. You owe that to Derrick. You can't, how do you trade somebody who just won you $1,000 literally and won you a UFL Cup? Overall, there's just nothing bad to say about this season. It was perfect. It was perfect through and through. The losses were rough, but it just doesn't matter because when you put up 118 plus points in your final three games, the number one seed getting the bye continues to prove how important that is to then only have to win your final two games. That is so important. And he comes out on top and he wins the UFL Cup. And now nothing else matters. It doesn't matter. He could win 0 games next year, and it doesn't matter because he won the UFL Cup. And he's now put together a dominant two seasons. So, trading wise, his only trade was that DJ Moore trade, I believe. And looking at how much his team changed from the beginning of week to the last week, it was really just DJ Moore. He switched it out with Nico Collins and he started Baker. But other than that, look at this. It's the same team through and through. He just trusted the process. He trusted the process. That DJ Moore trade, DJ Moore would have put up 1 point in that UFL Cup championship. He would have put up one. That's everything you need to know right there. That DJ Moore Nico Collins trade was huge down the stretch. Um, so yeah, it was an incredible season, and it'll be remembered forever. It'll be remembered forever by one of the clutchest playoff runs we have ever seen by Derrick Henry. That is how it sums up. Incredible, incredible, incredible. Going into next year, I won't touch too much on this because we're going to have a podcast dedicated to who gets to keep, like who we project to keep what. So we'll look at that when the time comes. But from a roster makeup standpoint, David believes in depth to a degree. He believes in running back power. He really doesn't have a certain mindset when it comes to positional value. He kind of values every position the same. What will be interesting is David does have a certain mindset on draft picks, especially when you're playing good. He doesn't believe in needing them. He almost takes the Los Angeles Rams approach. I do wonder when that will start to catch up to him in terms of he has to start letting players go that make a bunch of money. And is he going to be able to replace him with good rookies? No, if he does not have a good pick, if he doesn't start keeping it a first round pick. So he's going to need to start replacing Jordan Addison's, if it's Derrick Henry, Baker Mayfield's, he's going to have to start replacing them, not with good rookies, but with just free agents. And that's going to be interesting to see how he manages that part. Does he start to change his mindset on that front? That'll be interesting. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's just no other way around it. He built this team through the 2023 draft when he took Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, JSN, all these guys, Addison, Goddard, Baker, all these guys was in that 2024 draft. But even in the 2023 draft, it was Goddard, JSN, DJ Moore, Gibbs. It was just really, it started then and it finally came to fruition, which is exactly what he was always hoping for. Um, so yeah, there's no other way around it. David Katz finished an unprecedented run, and just like that, he is now 20 wins, 7 losses, and 1 tie over the last 2 seasons. His league record is damn near the same. His win percentage is the same. His luck is no, he's not had any crazy luck. Actually, matter of fact, he hasn't had a positive luck percentage since his first season in the UFL. And he's averaging 130 points per game over the last 2 seasons with a 96 power score. It's a dominant 2 year stretch. It's the first dominant team we've seen in the salary cap era. And he finishes it off $1,000 richer. So incredible 2025. That is his recap. There were really no crazy ups and downs that I can talk to you about because he just dominated, and that's what he does, and that's what he's continued to do. That is David Katzenmar's 2025 season recap as the UFL Cup champion.